What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Hey. Listen, we working. We are working. So let's get into this. This lawsuit isn't that long. It's Don King is being sued. Now, for those who do not know who Don King is, you know Don King by face. Maybe you don't know him by name. Don King is the infamous boxing promoter who's been connected to boxers going all the way back to Muhammad Ali. Um, in the heyday of boxing, hey, my cancer sister, in the heyday of boxing, everything went through Don King. Don King Promotions pretty much ran boxing. Now, he has been connected over the years to all sorts of nefarious things. Okay. Right. You know him by the hair. You know Don King by the hair. So a lawsuit was filed about a week ago where he is being sued for $3 billion with a B dollars. Now, over the years, a lot of former boxers have said that Don King did not pay them like he should have, and all of those things. So here's a lawsuit, and again, it's not that long. Did you see the clip of him walking the red carpet at Mar-a-Lago? Well, listen, he's proud of his association with Donald Trump. And here's what you guys have to remember. You got to go back to Donald Trump in his heyday. A lot of those boxing matches took place at Trump properties. If you go back, a lot of the boxing matches. So again, I'm not making an excuse, but child, his relationship with Donald Trump goes back years. Okay, so let's get into it. Now that I forgot he was still alive. Well, you haven't heard a lot from him over the last few years. Okay. His net worth is $290 million. Child. All right. Let me make it bigger. Let me open up the screen a little bit. It seems like a lot of people thought that man was dead. Okay. Abby said the same thing. She thought the man was dead, child. All right. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. All right. Now, this is BYD Sports LLC, BYD Sports Management LLC versus Don King Productions, Doe Corporations, and Doe Beneficiaries. We've been seeing a lot of these John Doe, Jane Doe situations, but okay. So again, we see a John Doe and a Jane Doe or Jane Doe situation. The preliminary statement is as follows. Don King, a flamboyant and controversial boxing promoter, built his empire on the backs of some of the greatest fighters in history. But his career has been plagued by allegations of corruption, exploitation, and deceit. Known as much for his towering hair and showmanship as for his ability to orchestrate major boxing events, King has faced a litany of lawsuits and accusations from the very athletes whose careers he managed. King's most notable legal battles involve some of the sport's largest names, including Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and Larry Holmes. Tyson, arguably King's most lucrative client, sued him in 1998 for $100 million, alleging that King had stolen millions through fraudulent business practices and exploitative contracts. Tyson described King as a ruthless, deplorable, greedy, and selfish individual, accusing him of skimming profits and exploiting his lack of financial acumen during a vulnerable time in his life. Larry Holmes, another heavyweight champ, also accused King of underpaying him and mishandling funds. Holmes famously remarked, Don King has ruined more lives than cancer. Damn. Muhammad Ali, a cultural and sports icon, sued King for underpayment of fights earnings, further tarnishing King's public image. These lawsuits painted a picture of a promoter who prioritized his own financial gain over the welfare of his fighters. King's legal troubles extended beyond his dealings with boxers. In 1999, he was sued by Lloyd's of London for allegedly inflating the value of canceled boxing matches to claim excessive insurance payouts. Although King denied wrongdoing, these allegations reinforce perceptions of him as a figure willing to manipulate circumstances for personal profit. Critics have argued King exploited systemic vulnerabilities in boxing, where fighters often come from disadvantaged backgrounds and lack of knowledge to navigate complex contracts. King's ability to wield charm and intimidation enabled him to dominate the industry, but left a trail of disillusioned and financially damaged athletes in his wake. Ooh. Ooh, child. All right, everybody coming in. Hey. Welcome. All right. Hold on a second. Let me do something real quick. Hold on, y'all, a quick second. All right, sorry about that. Thank you, Brown Mama. Wow, he has been skimming for years. Yes, honey. Been skimming for years. Thank you for the super chat. I did put a goal up here only because I've been working this today, y'all. I've been working today. So I did put a goal up there for today's live. Okay. Let's finish reading through this thing. In his dealings with the plaintiff, Mr. Cecil Miller, CEO of BYD, Mr. Don King claimed that his dealings of the past were behind him and that he had found Christ after the passing of his ex-wife and wanted to rectify his past reputation in his remaining years, working with upcoming talent like Mr. Miller, a preacher's son with a clean reputation in boxing. Here we go. Mr. King represented Mr. Miller with the opportunity that critics would say put Mr. King on the map by hosting a fight in Africa, a fight between George Foreman and Muhammad Ali. I know we're not going back to the Rumble in the Jungle. Y'all, I know we're not going back to the Rumble in the Jungle. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let's keep reading, honey. A fight between George Foreman and Muhammad Ali put this little-known boxing promoter on the map and grossed $100 million, or today's equivalent of $600 million, as approximately over 1 billion people saw the fight globally. This event, as historically noted, was instrumental in building the defendant's later career over the following 50 years. Although at the writing of this complaint, being 93, it appears that Don King has not in any way steered away from his negative past and did not sincerely want to help the next generation as he so portrayed. While Don King undeniably brought unprecedented attention and spectacle to boxing, his legacy is marred by accusations of greed and betrayal, and that the plaintiff brings today the stories of litigation and mistrust from his fighters and business partners overshadow his contributions, leaving him as a polarizing figure in sports history, celebrated for his promotional genius, but condemned for his alleged exploitation and unethical practices. Okay, so we go through jurisdiction and venue. Y'all know about that. We go through the parties. Don King, BYD, and then, of course, these John Does and Jane Does. All right. Here go the facts of the case, child. Y'all with me? All right. Here go the facts of the case. Now he at the door. He is at the door, champ. 93. He is knocking. Okay. On February 16th of 2021, Cecil Miller, CEO of BYD, an established music manager, boxing manager, and boxing promoter, entered into an agreement with and on behalf of boxer Alonzo Butler with Don King Productions. Don King Production offices in Florida. This agreement laid out terms and conditions for a bout and a promotional agreement for Alonzo Butler for the upcoming fight. BYD signed the agreement with Don King Productions and principal, Mr. Don King. There's a picture. Well, that's just a newspaper article. Okay, all right. On August the 28th of 2021, the heavyweight boxing event occurred as scheduled between Alonzo Butler and Brandon Spencer. Following the bout and as time progressed, the defendant and Mr. Miller of BYD developed, in addition to their contractual relationship, a working relationship wherein the defendant shared that he was putting together a Rumble in the Jungle 2 to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the boxing match between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and Zaire. I'm going to just say in Zaire in 1974. Mr. Miller was excited to hear about it and told Mr. King definitely want to get a ticket and let him know when more details were available. To be noted, the original fight between Foreman and Ali grossed $100 million. We already talked about that. This event, as historically noted, was instrumental in building the defendant's later career over the following 50 years. On the various following weeks and months, Mr. Miller and defendant continued to work together on various projects, with Mr. Miller bringing DKP without objection opportunities for licensing and branding, all with Don King's support and without any maternal objection to Mr. Miller doing so. In addition, in honor of Mr. Miller's work, Don King gave Mr. Miller a rare collectible coin symbolizing their relationship and took time to speak with Mr. Miller's father and young daughter. Why do we care about that part? Okay, let's keep going. Approximately 1 year passed, and during that time, Mr. Miller had been to Mr. King's home and met his family and continued to learn from the defendants. Mr. Miller brought up again the Rumble in the Jungle 2 that the defendant had brought up and asked how the progress was going. At that time, Mr. King, now 92 years old, informed Mr. Miller that much progress had been made. To Mr. Miller, it was clear that Mr. King needed some help. Oh, here we go. Now, here we go. And offered his assistance in putting on the fight in Africa in 2024. Mr. King agreed, but wanted a proposal in writing on what a deal might look like. Mr. Miller believed that the defendant was acting in good faith. You know what? Y'all, I don't like the direction this lawsuit going in. I don't know about this, y'all. I don't know if I like the direction this is going in. Although y'all tell me it sounds like it's about to go down a slippery slope. It sounds like it's getting ready to go down a slippery slope. I don't know. Y'all tell me. Let's go. Through counsel, BYD provided a proposal that was sent to Mr. King and his attorney repeatedly from August 2023 to February 2024. Although the receipt was acknowledged by Don King's team, there has never been a written response to the proposal date. Oh, boy. However, in the meantime, Mr. King continued to ask Mr. Miller verbally about how the progress was going, insisting that he continued to plan for the Rumble in the Jungle 2 anniversary fight. At this time, Mr. Miller had engaged with bankers in Africa, the U.S., and counsel, of which he informed Mr. King. Mr. King seemed pleased with the progress, yet was reluctant to do any signed agreement. As noted, the defendant mentioned that he has a long history of litigation wherein his reputation has been less than credible in this court and others, and preferred to do things verbally. Wait, what? Rewind. As noted, the defendant mentioned that he has a long history of litigation wherein his reputation. Oh, okay. He don't like to go through the courts. Okay. He like to do stuff verbally. Okay. Don King does. Got it. Okay. In lieu of a formal agreement, both Mr. Miller and Mr. King agreed to do a video wherein Mr. King would confirm that he was working with Mr. Miller on Rumble in the Jungle 2 to ensure all third parties, and in addition to their other businesses with Butler. Nope. So you mean to tell me that Don King told you that he don't like to do written contracts because he's been to court too many times, But in lieu of a written contract, he'll do a video with you where he will acknowledge that y'all are working together. Boy, bye. Boy, bye. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Let's keep going. Now I know why this lawsuit was so short, child. It only 20, it ain't but 20 pages. We already on page 7, honey. In addition, Mr. Miller began working with various staff at Don King to procure tables and ticket sales for fights in Florida. Mr. Miller was convinced that the selling sponsorships and promotions would help Don King want to work with him on Africa fights or things locked down. This was confirmed additionally with employees. So wait, what? Mr. Miller was convinced that selling sponsorships and promotions would help Don King want to work with him on Africa fights or getting things locked down. So you were still auditioning for the job? You were still auditioning for the position? Okay, then. Okay. Progress continued being made by Mr. Miller with sites for the anniversary fight and proposals sent to African countries such as Burkina Faso and the Republic of Ghana and their representatives. News that Mr. Miller would update Mr. King on periodically to procure interest in the endeavor. He would update Mr. King on periodically. Okay. Mr. Miller and joint venture partners Integrity Sports sent out letters requesting interest in hosting the fight with no mention of Don King at all, but for the mention of working with the original promoters of Ali and Foreman. Those letters were sent out in October of 2023. I don't know how that helps your case. If you said you were sending out letters asking people that they wanted to be a part of the fight, but you didn't mention Don King, how does that help prove that you was working with Don King? Huh. All right, let's keep reading. On or around January of 2024, Mr. Miller ventured to Florida to meet with Don King Productions with the specific intention of discussing Rumble in the Jungle 2 and the progress that had been made per their previous phone calls and discussions. Mr. Miller informed Mr. King that the Republic of Ghana was being considered, but Mr. King's office informed Mr. Miller that no move would be considered valid unless there was an official invitation from the government. Okay, all right. Eventually, Mr. Miller informed Mr. King that Nigeria may be a good fit because they had an upcoming festival that was being promoted called the Global Entrepreneurship Festival, and that a partnership could be possible to bring the fight to Nigeria. At no point, however, was his name or likeness or logo used to procure any contract. At no point did Don King or Don King object to any of the representations made by Mr. Miller. I still don't understand how this helps your case. Y'all, I'm confused. How does that help his case? All right, let me keep going, child. On or about May of 2024, it became aware by a mutual colleague, Mr. Charles Smith, that Don King's daughter was working on a similar event in Africa for the commemoration of the 1974 fight in the original Democratic Republic of the Congo, the former Zaire, where the original fight was fought. Mr. King's daughter was seeking $50 million from a foreign government for the fight and had apparently some investment lined up. At this point, Mr. Miller, infuriated, insisted that if Mr. King wanted his daughter to do this, he would back out. Mr. King insisted that his own daughter had a bad history and was not to be trusted, as she had some previous run-ins with misrepresentations of her own. Oh. Mr. King ensured that he would handle his own daughter. Wait, what? I'm confused. Wait, hold on. At this point, Mr. Miller Mr. King ensured that he would handle his own daughter as to ensure that Mr. Miller and BYD completed the task assigned to make new history with the 50th anniversary fight, and that no one else seemed to make any significant progress. Y'all, this thing. After Mr. King's assurances, Mr. Miller's counsel relied on such advice and continued to work on making the fight a reality in Africa. Don King's assurances went as far as stating that he himself wanted to do the fight card, a list of the actual boxers that would participate, as it would be his own reputation on the line. These statements were heard by multiple third parties. Continuing to rely upon Don King's assurance, BYD and GEF enter into a memorandum of understanding based on the proposed sent above. GEF, that's the entrepreneurship situation over in Ghana, and BYD agreed to a series of fights over 5 years to be held at the GEF Festival in Akure, Ondo State of Nigeria. The GEF Festival was built as an Aspen-level event for the world's wealthiest to converge on Nigeria to do business in a secluded, exclusive space. Invited guests were world leaders, political leaders, heads of state, and heads of industry. Subsequently, Mr. Miller and counsel continued to work independently, waiting on Don King's fight card. To support the upcoming festival and announce that history would be made hosting the 50th anniversary of Ali and Foreman, GEF announced that it's having a press conference for the promotion of the festival as its biggest entrepreneur event in the world. On July 18th of 2024, GEF officially, through BYD and counsel, invited DK to a press release, which just happened to be on defendant's 93rd birthday in Lagos, Nigeria. Due to Don King's age and time zones, it would be possibly only a video appearance on Zoom. It appeared history was aligning, but Don King was still avoiding all communication. What? He was avoiding all communication. That means he don't want to do this with you. That means he don't want to do this with you. What you mean? You still can't get him on the phone. As confirmed by multiple Don King representatives, the letter from the Nigerian government was received in due course by Don King, and with Ms. Vonda Carson, an executive with Don King, saying she put the letter on Mr. King's desk directly. Unfortunately, following the official governmental letter specifically requested by Don King's office from July of 2024 and October of 2024, Don King continues to refuse to answer the phone calls or emails from BYD in regards to the opportunity. However, the boxing community is starting to take notice with the expression of interest from top boxers in the world, expressing a willingness in appearing, including the lineage of Muhammad Ali and George Foreman expressing interest in participating. Y'all, this sounded like a scam. Don King don't have nothing to do with this. Don King don't have nothing to do with this, it seemed like. Y'all? gonna tell you what this sound like. I'm gonna finish reading it. We almost done, but it sound like let me go ahead and say it because I might forget what I was gonna say. This sound like that man reached out to Don King and basically asked if he could use the name Rumble in the Jungle. I do think Don King probably wanted to try to do a Rumble in the Jungle, but he couldn't get it off the ground. And boxing isn't what it used to be, right? And I think this man was like, look, I can do it. You know, is it okay if I use the name? Is it okay if I use, you know, Rumble in the Jungle 50th anniversary? Because everybody knows the Rumble in the Jungle that knows about boxing. And he probably was like, yeah. But it does not sound like Don King had any active participation in this situation other than giving you permission to do it. I don't see where Don King agreed. I don't see. Let me keep reading. Still, Don King refuses to respond to any correspondence, which led BYD to discover that Don King doesn't even own the rights to Rumble in the Jungle. Ciao. Instead, it is owned by Authentic Brands, Inc. Apparently, Don King was holding himself out as the rightful custodian of Rumble in the Jungle, but in fact, it is held by Ali Enterprises, as it was Muhammad Ali who created the phrase Rumble in the Jungle. Ciao. So Muhammad Ali owns it? And with his estate. And not even Don King, with this information, BD decided now to reach out to Authentic to possibly license the name, but also begins to go by the Freedom Belt, which has no association with either Don King or Authentic. That's what you should have done from the beginning. Child, you should have just came up with your own thing, child. But I mean, I know what you was doing. You was trying to link on to Don King's name. That's what you was trying to do. On August the 23rd of 2024, GEF held a press conference wherein counsel for BYD announced that GEF will be hosting a fight at the festival in honor of Ali informing from 50 years prior. Further, it was announced that BYD nor his attorney represent Don King personally, but they have an existing contract. You don't have a contract. You have a videotape. You don't have no okay. At minimum, would like to honor him for his achievements. Since the GEF was about entrepreneurism, Don King was the type of entrepreneur that should be potentially honored. Continuing without the help from Don King, BYD, with the pressure of a now secured fight date of November 23rd. That can't be November 23rd of 2023 because they said they were still trying to get in touch with him in 2024. That has to be a typo. That has to be a typo. Because it says November 23rd of 2023. But okay. At this point, I don't even think it matters, child. Bearing Down begins to secure the fight card, promotions, and arrangements in Nigeria, all under BYD, not Don King or any associated entities. The November fight that GEF was to feature world champion Sugar Shane Mosley versus Victor Ortiz, with an undercard of Latif versus Latif Coyote versus Samuel Peters, all who signed a form of bout agreement or letter of intent to participate. In addition to the fight, venue set for Akure, Nigeria, pay-per-view was also procured with Amazon Sports affiliate with no help from Don King, as well as a sponsorship interest with promotion and ticket partners set in place. Tickets were set to go on sale November the 1st of 2024 through the ticketing partners BYD put in place. Further, BYD received boxing sanction license in Nigeria to host the fight and was down to coordinating final logistics, all again with no mention of Don King or Don King Productions, as it was not required to do so to have a fight in Africa. Sponsors were also in the final stages of being secured for fight sponsorship for all participants from the U.S. to Nigeria, as well as visa support from Nigeria to U.S. government officials. On or about October the 28th of 2024, Don King calls Mr. Miller with Mr. Yo Judah on the phone to state that he suddenly now has no idea what Mr. Miller is doing in Africa, which caught Mr. Miller completely by surprise. Why did it catch you by surprise, Mr. Miller? You haven't been able to get this man on the phone in months. Why were you caught off guard? Why were you caught by surprise at all? You said you couldn't get this man on the phone. The two began to argue about the recollection of previous events, where Mr. Miller stated repeatedly that Don King gave me his blessing to do Rumble in the Jungle. Sir, didn't you say you found out he didn't even own the rights to Rumble in the Jungle? So he can't give you his blessings to do shit. Further, Mr. Miller states that Don King's lack of response left him no choice but to fulfill the existing obligations to the festival with or without his involvement. Don King states that he doesn't remember, and upon hearing that BYD has a 5-year deal in Africa, Don King insists he will send a cease and desist to shut down the whole event, including ceasing the use of Freedom Belt and Rumble in the Jungle 50th anniversary, which Don King doesn't even own. The cease and desist went out to all future events as well as all based upon the fabrication that Don King doesn't even know the Mr. Miller and Don King owned or controlled brands he did not. Y'all, this thing sound crazy as hell. Child. Sound like Mr. Miller is hard up for turning over every rock to get some money. Child, this sound like you thought you was getting something out of Don King, and Don King ain't as stupid as you thought he was. Listen, the man didn't return none of your phone calls. You said you reached out to him numerous times, and you never got a return phone call. He wouldn't even give you a signed contract. Like, he wouldn't even give you a signed contract, ma'am. I mean, sir. As a result of Don King's letter to the Nigerian government, officials canceled the fight as culturally whether the allegations Mr. King was stating whether they were true or not. They created embarrassment to the officials involved. The Nigerian government officials repeating the lies aligned by Mr. King, stating he had no affiliation with Mr. Miller, even though Don King was used on no promotion or planned promotion material. What? The GEF event was on schedule between November the 22nd through the 24th, with businesses and high-level individuals participating from around the globe, including a few billionaires whom the efforts of both BYD and GEF were targeting, attended to make a historical event. Child, you tried to get Don King and Don King got you. That's what it sounds like. Let's just look at, we're not going to read through all this, but the course of action, tortoise interference with economic relations, tortoise interference with prospective business relations, defamation, libel per se, negligent misrepresentation, fraud in the inducement, breach of contract. Y'all, listen, this sound like he thought he was about to get over on Don King and Don King got over on him. That's what it sounds like to me. Is Mr. Miller his American name? Ooh. I knew it was sketchy based off of $3 billion. Okay. What's up, Ray Bishop? Hey, boo. Sounds like Miller was in Africa living on Don King's reputation. That's what it said. And it sounded like he was hoping to get to the fight and he was going to get it sounded like he was going to hit a lick off of the fight because he said that he had all these millionaires lined up. Sound like he was about to hit a lick. That's what it sounded like to me. That he thought he was about to hit a lick. Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me, that he thought he was about to hit a lick. And Don King was like, not so fast. Not so fast. Sir, your first clue was when Don King didn't want to sign no contract. He said we could just do a video. It sounds like he gave you permission to do Rumble in the Jungle, even though he ain't own Rumble in the Jungle. He probably knew he didn't own Rumble in the Jungle. But again, he probably was like, yeah, go ahead and do your 50th anniversary Rumble in the Jungle. Now, what happened was, when it came time, it sounds like the people in Africa wanted to sign on if Don King was connected to it. Once he could know, I'm going to tell you where this fell apart. In my opinion, this fell apart when they couldn't use Rumble in the Jungle. When they couldn't use the name Rumble in the Jungle, Rumble in the Jungle, that's where this fell apart, I think. When he had to change the name, that's when they was like, yeah, nah. And then they tried to double back to Don King, and Don King was like, I ain't got nothing to do with this. I don't know what this is. I didn't have nothing to do with this. That's my opinion, y'all. Now, I don't know that to be true, but that's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like he thought he was going to get him a quick lick. Sound like he thought he was going to get him a quick lick. And it sounded like he thought as long as he could connect Don King's name to it or Rumble in the Jungle. And when them people down to the Nigeria was like, wait a minute, you said this was going to be Rumble in the Jungle, the 50th anniversary. We don't know nothing about no Battle of the Belt or the Belt, whatever the name he changed it to. And they was like, where's Don King? Get Don King on the phone. And when he couldn't get Don King on the phone, they was like, no, thank you. Now, that's what it sounded like to me. And I don't know where you got $3 billion from, because even if the fight had happened, sir, now maybe he's thinking that, because he did say he signed a 5-year contract. Maybe he was thinking that over the next 5 years he would have been able to make. But, sir, you was not making no $3 billion. Right, who were the headliners? They said Sugar Shane Mosley. I thought Sugar Shane Mosley was retired. I didn't even know he was still fighting. I don't really follow boxing like I used to, so I know the name Sugar Shane, but I didn't know Sugar Shane was still fighting, honest, because he's local. Isn't he from our area? Isn't Sugar Shane from the Baltimore, D.C.? I'm not sure. I think he's Baltimore. I'm not sure. Right, he forgot that can't nobody scam like Don King, child. He forgot who he was messing with. Who you thought you were? Child, who you think you were messing with? I thought Sugar Shane retired. Thank you, hey, Gina Bina. I thought Sugar Shane had retired. That's why I was like, not did Sugar Shane know? But that's what it said. Didn't I read that? It said Sugar Shane signed on. He signed a memorandum of understanding or something. And that's what he said. Man, I don't know if he got any paperwork to show it, but that's what he said. They say all the exhibits. Hold on, let me see if I can find that exhibit. I don't know if the exhibit is connected. Hold on, child. I don't already close this down. Hold on, let me scroll down a little bit. Child. Yeah, this doesn't include the exhibits. But they did say shit, because I remember when I was reading it, I said, Sugar Shane Mosley. Because I thought Sugar Shane had retired, child. I'm going to tell you what I need. I need to see that videotape. When you said that he wouldn't sign a letter, he wouldn't sign a contract, but he agreed to do the videotape. I need to see that. I need to see the videotape he agreed to do. That's what I need to see. What was said in that videotape? Oh, he's from Pomona. I don't know why I thought Sugar Shane was from the East Coast. My bad. But yeah, that's what I need to see. Now, if I can see a copy of that videotape, that'll tell me everything I need to know. But the fact that man said, look, I don't trust the courts because my name been in too many lawsuits, so I ain't going to sign a contract with you, but I do a video. That should have been your reason right there. Because that's all the more reason why we need to make this legit, and we need to make this an airtight contract so we don't end up in court. But for you to say, no, I don't want to sign a contract with you, but we're going to do this over here. No, ma'am. No, I'm not thinking of Sugar Ray Leonard. I know where Sugar Ray Leonard is from. I thought Sugar Shane Mosley was from the East Coast. I wasn't getting them confused. A contract and a video is the same difference. No, it's not. It ain't the same thing. No, ma'am. Because it depends on what he's saying in the video. You see what I'm saying? Just like it would depend on what the contract is saying. So if he's saying, look, I'm not signing a contract with you, but I'll do a video with you. It ain't the same. I need to know what that man said in the video. I need to know what he said in the video. Did he say in the video? You can use the name Rumble in the Jungle, yada, yada, yada? Or did he say in the video, I want to be a part of it. We're partners. You see what I'm saying? And I need to hear what the man said. Now he working with the nursing home circuit. Ciao. Girl. Well, while y'all in here, y'all make sure y'all get over there to blackgirlvitamins.co and y'all get y'all Black Girl Vitamins. Get this new year started off right. They got everything you need, okay? They got everything you need. Y'all get on over there. Y'all use my discount code ReallyBTV and get you 20% off your first order, okay? All right. And let me know how y'all like it. Let me know how y'all like it, all right? All right. All right, y'all. Let me get off of here. I'm a relax, relate, release until the Beverly Hills hoes come on. Okay. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.